things that really stood out to me, and your past is just incredible. You've got the heart of a volunteer. You've extended yourself over the years, but I think it's that understanding how we communicate and learning to be a listener is so important and so vital. And we just we're always in such a hurry, I think, to add our point in a conversation, but that's not really the art of conversation. I think the way we learn is truly by listening, and just stop all the thought process that's going on in your head. Just listen. If you hear a little point, okay, hold on to it. When the time's right, then you speak. But anyway, that being said, one of the things as we were talking in our little preliminary discussion was this interesting topic, and we'll get it started today and then see where it goes. But when the courts start to dictate to physicians and start to order medical treatments to whether it's patients or overruling a family member's wishes. And so I thought we'd kind of get into that today because it does tie into, again, communication and why it's so important to listen and to respect each other's wishes as we move forward. And Randy, a while back, I think when we first started kicking this idea around, we talked about the Terry Schiavo case from many years ago, who was kept on life support and essentially in a vegetative state for many years, and the family fought that. And there have been other instances where courts stepped in, and so at what point is this really acceptable? We doctors have been trained to make medical decisions. We've abdicated quite a bit of that over the years, and companies do tend to tell us what we need to do. But now the government's getting involved in medical decision making too. And ultimately, we're the ones who are still carrying the malpractice insurance. But so I just want to throw that out there and just thought this as our little segue into this discussion. So Dr. Abramson, Scott, I'll let you lead it off because I don't know if you've had any thoughts or experiences in instances where maybe you or a colleague were managing somebody, a difficult case, and a legal channel was followed to intervene.
Yeah. Thanks, Des. One other thing though about just getting back to the important thing you said about listening, and I think if you're talking to someone and they respond back to you as soon as you stop talking, then they hadn't heard the last 30 seconds that you said anything, because they're planning in their mind what they're going to say. So I don't know if I said this on Randy's podcast, but one of I hate acronyms. I never use acronyms. And the reason is because of NRA. And that has nothing to do with the Second Amendment. It's like nobody remembers acronyms, and I never remember them. But there's one acronym that I have remembered that I was taught in our communication session, and this is the best acronym I ever heard. It's called WAIT, W-A-I-T, W-A-I-T, WAIT. And what it means is whenever you're in a conversation with someone, ask yourself, WAIT, W-A-I-T, why am I talking? Why am I talking? And that has helped me so much. When I process that acronym, I learned to shut up and listen better.
That's so valuable. That is so valuable. My acronym that I've kind of lived by has been FUBAR, but that's a whole nother story. We won't go there.
Okay.
I think I just couldn't help throw that in there. And I was listening to you.
Such a fascinating topic that you bring up. I can't remember a situation where I've gotten very involved in that medical legal decision itself, like a Terry Schiavo situation. I mean, in a real major way. I do remember one incident sticks in my mind, and this happened like over 40 years ago when I was doing my residency at Kings County in New York. It's a county hospital in Brooklyn, and there was and I wasn't involved in the case, but it was well known. Everybody knew about it. Everybody was working around it. So a Haitian man brought his young child, must have been 2 or 3 years old, into the emergency room, and the doctors diagnosed him as having meningitis, bacterial meningitis. They recommended treatment. The father, because of whatever reasons, religious reasons or cultural reasons, refused the treatment. Brought him back the next day, and the kid was almost moribund. He survived, but the child was blind and deaf afterward. And so, I mean, that's one aspect of this. And you always think, if somehow we could have gotten an immediate court order, because if you have to go to court, it's like days or weeks, but if we had gotten an immediate court order, we could have saved this kid's life. And I know the father felt terrible afterwards, and it was just a terrible situation. I mean, that's an extreme situation, but it really comes down to, what are the rights of the individual versus the rights of society to protect itself and to protect its citizens. And that was kind of an extreme case where you would have hoped that you would have given maybe society and its operatives, the medical profession, more power to do that. Certainly, there's a lot of other situations and where the government or medical profession is overbearing and oversteps itself. It really, and this whole thing, I know about the big issue is getting a vaccine and what are the penalties if you're not vaxxed. It's such a, I mean, I think that's the crucial issue, is where, in each situation is different. And where do you draw the line in terms of individual liberty versus the right of society to protect itself and to protect especially its young ones who can't fend for themselves?
And this is such, so much a source of frustration in a way. We too, I mean, ultimately, there's no society without individual. The individuals make the society, but yet when we look at the so-called greater good, we have to protect that as well. And like you said, even fending for those who can't make the decisions for themselves. It's such a source of frustration. We have, especially when you've got technology and ability to do better for somebody, but whether it's a religious reason or some other, personal belief that, where does this end? Where does this, I don't know that I don't see a simple solution to any of this.
Yeah.
Scott just touched on something that I think is really one of the primary drivers of the conversation for today, and that is mandating healthcare workers to be vaccinated. And there are strong opinions on both sides of that debate. I know where I stand on it, but of course that's me and how I choose to control what I have control over, and that's this body. But when I place it in a position where I'm in charge of taking care of other bodies, then it becomes another conversation. So I'm kind of curious, any thoughts on that particular, because it is now, it's a mandate. Healthcare workers are losing jobs because they're choosing not to be vaccinated.
Ron, we're also seeing healthcare workers are leaving the profession because they don't want to be they don't want to be in that environment. Exposed. And that's disturbing in itself. It's like, why did you go into the healthcare profession if you're going to bail when times are tough, or when, this is our calling, this is why we chose this path, I thought. And
right.
Now you're going to leave your patient. You wouldn't abandon a patient at bedside, but that's exactly what you're doing.
Right.
And
right.
So this is a whole nother issue beyond just the mandatory vaccinations. And, you know, we're in some times that we have not encountered in our lifetime, that's for sure.
Well,
But
it kind of reminds me of, in my clinical career, early in my clinical career, AIDS, and everybody was concerned about AIDS. The difference, though,
Yep.
is that yes, we could be exposed. That was one element, but there's no vaccine to protect me when I take care of the AIDS, patient. So it's similar, yet it's different, where I'm being required to do something to my body.
Yes, we have to look at it too. There's been certainly the politics has come into this. And my frustration is that, and I look at what's gone on, and I've heard both sides, and I've seen both parties playing politics with this, and I just say, you know what, maybe people in the positions of authority had just talked to all of us like we were adults, and maybe been honest, say, look, this is something new. We do not know what we're working against here. And here are recommendations. Take the politics out of it, but it's been so politicized. And this is, I think, part of the issue that we're faced with now. And this is why people are behaving the way they are. We all desire freedom. We all want to live in a free society, I would think. We don't like to necessarily be told what to do all the time, especially if we've been using critical thinking all along the way. But where does I don't know how this all, ends outside of the virus burning itself out.